Okay, as you can see, we are all red today with the lighting, and it's very fitting because we are going to speak on two very, very bloody films. Now, it's a double feature. One side of this double feature, is going to be for those who are curious about animated horror. All right, so if you're looking for a feature film that involves horror elements, I have you completely covered with one that you probably haven't considered, especially if you're not into anime. Now, this video is not to convince you to watch anime if you don't already watch anime. This video is to convince you to watch this one film. And I consider this movie one of the greatest vampire stories ever told. And it doesn't get a lot of love except for a very specific group of people who are drawn to anime, and specifically this kind and of this time. And then the other is very much a do-it-yourself film by Joe Begos called Jimmy and Stiggs. So I'm going to do the Jimmy and Stiggs first, and then we're going to go into the second one afterwards. But I want to get Jimmy and Stiggs out first because this is the easiest one to talk about. I am an unapologetic fan of Joe Begos. I think that he is one of the more creative, original, and it's kind of a double-edged sword to say original because a lot of the stuff that he makes calls back to earlier times. But I feel like he is one of the few who can do it so well. He has his art down on almost every aspect, and no greater example than Jimmy and Stiggs. Now, you've probably seen this man's work somewhere, whether it be if you're on Shudder first and foremost, but you've definitely at least heard of Christmas Bloody Christmas, VFW, and then last year's Jimmy and Stiggs. Now, my favorite out of all his films is VFW, and there will be a huge review where I just hype the shit out of this movie. I won't spoil anything until the review, but just know that it's coming. But we're here to talk about Jimmy and Stiggs. Jimmy and Stiggs came out last year, and it was picked up by the production studio, the horror section. Now, for you guys that are well versed in film, you probably already know that that is Eli Roth's movie studio, movie production company, where he is picking up unique voices in horror and trying to amplify them. He has another film coming out later. He had another film last year called Dream Eater, and I believe that the Ice Cream Man film is also his. So he has great taste. But Jimmy and Stiggs, man, Joe Begos just knows what he is doing. He has such a keen eye for guerrilla style filmmaking, and no better example than Jimmy and Stiggs. So Jimmy and Stiggs was a project that took 4 years to make during COVID. And the way that he moved about making this project was he got together with, I think, 5 to 6 of his friends, and they all made a movie in his apartment, and it was released in theaters 4 years later. This movie takes place in his apartment. He is the main character of this film, and it involves him getting abducted by aliens for one night and being dropped off at home. And the paranoia gets to him so badly that he starts prepping for what he knows is to come, which is that these fuckers are coming back for him one more night. And whatever's happening next, whether it be more probing or whatever the fuck they did to him, is not going to happen. And he is a filmmaker in the film who is having a hard time getting his new film off the ground. So he has all his props at home, and all his props are shotguns and axes. The guy's set for an actual siege film. And that's the premise of the movie. He destroys his entire apartment in an effort to shoot this movie. And not only was it not in vain, this movie calls back to a time that is so special, I know, to a lot of you, and to me, just in terms of the practicality that I wish we had in movies today, and the practicality that only comes with indie films these days. For me, last year's standouts were not Weapons and whatever other big movie was coming out last year. My standouts, and yes, I know Weapons is a good movie, but my standouts were Good Boy and Jimmy and Stiggs, particularly for, as a lot of us are aspiring to be a filmmaker or a writer of any in any way. And these two films were made by people who have a lot of love for the genre, a lot of love for the process, and they were both made during COVID, across the course of 4 years. Very, very patiently, if you know the story for both productions. Because Good Boy was a really fun horror film from the perspective of a dog. And he used his dog, his house, to shoot it. And his dog wasn't trained. He just figured it out. And it's awesome to see. With Jimmy and Stiggs, it's his apartment. I believe he spent about $250,000, which is a very, very low budget. I believe that is close to the budget for Terrifier 2. And he destroyed his entire apartment in efforts to make this film, and it works because this movie is over the top. It is so absurd. It embraces the absurdity in such a way. You can see from the trailer that I'm showing, visually, it's very much inspired by 80s and 70s films, very heavy emphasis on neon colors. But you may notice that the aliens are very much practical, and that's because through a very genius blend of production, props, paper mache, he managed to create aliens that work against him in the movie. Handcrafted aliens. He has a myriad of them that he prepared for the film. He did it with the intent of making it look like one of those films that you can tell was made on a shoestring, but he I don't know what the saying is, but when you embrace the flaws of something, right? You not only do you embrace them, but when something is flawed, you highlight those flaws. Well, he highlighted the flaws that come with doing something fully practical, and he made it a charming part of the film. Now, this movie, just because it's fully practical and the aliens look the way they do, does not mean that it is not an insane ride, because this movie from beginning to end is absolutely ridiculous. There's the chase sequences, the fight scenes, the blood and guts. I mean, he highlights the shit out of it. He throws blood at the screen, he throws body parts at the screen. Great score, also great use of camera work and dynamicism around the space as well. Without spoiling much, what he does in the third act feels almost impossible within our reality. The fact that he shot this in his apartment, in his home, and he managed to turn the entire third act to look like it's taking place somewhere else, is a testament to the craftsmanship that this motherfucker has between his fingertips. He is genuinely a great creative, and anything that he makes I flock to. Christmas Bloody Christmas, if you have not seen it, you need to. If you like Terminator, that movie is clearly Terminator meets Terrifier, but it looks great, and it very much highlights the 80s look, Giallo's 70s aesthetic. This is definitely dead alive with aliens, and that's what's so fun, is like that film also highlights its practicality and its flaws. This does the same thing. It is so fun to see this man jump around and fight with aliens that aren't really moving, but somehow through the magic of camera work and everything else in between, he gave me one of the craziest rides that came out last year. And so much so that this is such an exclusive release, but I bought the Jimmy and Stiggs Blu-ray, and I paid $68 for this because it wasn't gonna come out at all. But dude, it's so like he did this. Even the see that it's so nice, man. Even the title sequence, the title card, was actually practical. You wouldn't be able to tell. He did the title cards practically. I looked up as many interviews as possible to just listen to him talk about the process, because he's genuinely inspired, and by default you get inspired listening to him. He is the main character. He is not an actor, and he said it himself, but that's how he saved money. So be warned of some of the hokey dialogue, but it gets pretty gnarly, it gets pretty weird, it definitely gets cosmic. It's not just a creature feature, it does a lot with bending time and space. I enjoy this movie so much. I love it dearly. And now my second film. My second film is what I call the greatest vampire tale that you never considered. And it might be the name of this video. Who knows? But the film that I'm going to talk to you about now is called Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Now this is technically part 2, but you don't need to see part 1 to understand part 2. This almost feels like what they originally intended with a budget. The 1985 one, I believe it's 85, came out and has very much a cult following. Aesthetically, that movie is beautiful. The hand-drawn animation just can't be beat. It's incredible. But it had a very low budget, and you can kind of tell in the stoicism of the animation. But when they came out with 2000 Bloodlust, let me tell you, they did not skimp on everything they intended to do. I do watch anime, and I'm very particular about the anime that I watch. I like darker toned, more 80s influence, 90s influence anime, things like Berserk and Hellsing, as well, Metro City, Demon City, not Metro City, Jesus Christ, Wicked City, but also Metropolis. So I just like very dark, mature anime. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is such a gothic, soulful anime that I feel any horror fan who hasn't seen it needs to watch it, because they're missing out on one of the greatest vampire stories ever told. And it is simple in practice on surface level. The story follows a vampire hunter who is a vampire himself, half human, half vampire, Blade story basically. And he is a bounty hunter, and he is on the prowl for a girl who has been kidnapped by another vampire, and he has been hired by that girl's family to find her, along with a shitload of other bounty hunters who are in a group together. And so they're competing for $20 million to save her. And we follow this gang. We also follow D, but we're also following the girl. She is actually willingly with him. She is in love with him. And as you can imagine, this complicates things for everyone down the road. Not only is it gothic in its purest form, I just don't know if I've seen anything more gothic than this film. And I've had it in my collection for a while. I just brought it out again to admire. I was in the mood for it, and I wanted to put you guys onto something animated but horror. And I feel like I couldn't have chosen a better, more perfect film to recommend in the animated space, because it is purely gothic, but it also has elements of Western films, and it is the purest form of a vampire story that you can tell. We are fighting our bloodlust. There is the moral gray areas are being explored in terms of what's right, what's wrong, how long can you suppress your hunger. But there is also an exploration about isolation as a vampire and love. And when you find that one person who you love to death, but you don't want to suck their blood because you don't want to condemn them to a lifetime of suffering and fighting this thirst. Like, you want them to live out a good human life, but you love them. That is all explored. It is a tragic romance, but it's not for wussies. This thing is bloody as fuck. The villains here almost remind me of, and I don't know if anybody here has read Dante's Inferno, Divine Comedy, Paradise, Purgatory, and Hell, or Inferno, but one of my favorite books of all time is depicts the 9 circles of hell, and a lot of the artwork here reminds me of Dante's Inferno and the 9 circles of hell. Like, that's just how beautiful and gothic some of these environments are. There's nothing quite like it, and just watching it again and getting that same feeling. Now, this one came out in 2000, and you will be hard pressed to find anything that looks better than this that's recently come out. It is hand drawn beautifully. Every detail, every microfiber of cloth, every hair fiber, everything has movement, everything is hand drawn, everything has detail, everything feels ghastly realized, and there's just something about it that is visually mystifying. And towards the first half, it is kind of your straightforward Western bounty hunt, drenched in Gothic lore and creatures, the people that are protecting the other vampires and mutants that are protecting this vampire and his love are all have their own specific powers. One of them is so insane. She can actually turn herself into wooden bark and blend in with trees. And another one, Ken, is literally a shadow. He can control the cloak that he wears and control any shadow. And the visuals behind each and every single one of these villains is so detailed and well thought out and framed and composed. And the music is so tragic. But the second half, once we reach our destination of this castle, turns into a surrealist trip that is unlike anything you might see in a live action film, and that's just the power of animation. If you can think it, you can draw it, and it's less expensive. But I'm telling you, this film is one of the greatest vampire stories that no one considers mentioning, at least in conversations with me about the best vampire stories told. I genuinely think this is Gothic vampiric lore at its purest, at its best. It's beautiful, it's hypnotizing. The characters are somewhat surface level, but if you're willing to look a little further, you can imply certain things. But there is depth. It's just there's a big cast. Not everyone gets the depth. A lot of the bounty hunters are just there to kind of grunt and be cool. I've watched my good chunk of anime, but the ones that I will recommend to you are ones that are truly dark, because those are the ones that appeal to me, like Berserk, Demon City, Wicked City, Metropolis. These are shows that have affected me and impacted me as an admirer of film work and narratives. I think I'm done convincing you. Hopefully I have, to at least give it a try, give it a shot. Stick with it till the very end. Trust me, it will pay off, and you will have so many good things to say about it, even if you have a couple bad things, because it's just not the kind of thing that you'd watch. But for those who do like anime and are looking for something darker and are bored of the usual happy-go-lucky shit that's been coming out, this one is for you for sure. Anyway, that's my review. Can you believe I shot all this in one take? That's crazy. Usually it takes me a couple, but anyway, thank you guys for listening. And thank you guys for getting me so close to 1,000. We are at 955 now. So I'm humbled, and I am forever grateful. And I'll always say it at least one time every video. So thank you guys for showing up. I'll see you tomorrow. And as always, I will see you at the movies.